Mic check, can you hear that? Yes. All right, welcome everybody. This is our August update for our long-range recovery planning committee. Basically what we're going to do is kind of give you an overview of what the plan is for the evening. I have some brief administrative items that I'm going to go over, but then we're going to have a brief presentation from the various subcommittees that we have. This is an excellent opportunity to kind of give you an overview of everything that's going on from the county's perspective in managing the recovery process. So if you haven't been able to attend some of the other subcommittees, this is the perfect opportunity, the one-stop shop, to really find out what's going on. Then we have a couple of staff reports, and at the end, we will definitely open up so that we can have some public comment. So with that, I'm going to start off with the fact that if you have not visited our website, www.bffassistance.com, please write that down. We've made some modifications to that. I think because of internet problems, we are not going to be able to actually pull that up. But go on to that particular website, and it outlines the county's role in the recovery process. It talks about the various subcommittees that we have and points of contact for people to be able to engage in there. One of the links that we have on there is an opportunity for, if you want to receive emails, you can sign up and have your email addresses put in there so that you can receive current updates as far as what's going on in the various subcommittees. We also have a listing of all the meetings that are on that site. So we've made some major updates with that, and so please take a look at that because I think it's something that's very useful for the community. What I'm going to start doing next Friday, I'm going to start having informal sessions at the R&R Cafe from about 2 to 4. We're going to at least try that every Friday so that you can have an opportunity to swing by and just have informal discussions. The one thing that we found is that there's a lot of information out there. Some of it's factual, some of it's not. Sometimes it's just good to just be able to ask the commissioner a question as far as what is really happening. So I want to invite people to take an opportunity to come by, send me an email, but be able to have a face-to-face conversation, just kind of let you know what's going on from our perspective. We're going to try that every Friday in September and then see how that goes. But from 2 to 4, starting next Friday, not this Friday. And Process Colossus has been instrumental in trying to help me with site visits. I'm trying to get out around the community at least once a week to try to observe some of the things that are happening, whether it's stormwater runoff, those particular areas. So they've been helping me facilitate those particular items. And I've been essentially leaning on them for some community outreach efforts, but we encourage everybody in the community to try to participate. The county, it welcomes everybody that wants to volunteer and help out in the recovery process. What is happening now is we've completed what I consider phase 1 of our recovery, and we're moving into phase 2. And I have been assigned some action items for our subcommittees, because basically what we want to do now is, this is an opportunity, I want our subcommittees to do a couple of things. Number one, it's an opportunity to take a look at your group. When you think about where we're going in the recovery process, we want to take a critical look at your particular structure and determine whether or not within your area of responsibility, are there things that have been assigned to your subcommittee that have already been completed? We want to know about that. Are there things in your subcommittee that are essentially beyond the scope of this particular recovery effort, because we want to find that out too. And if there's an area that should be assigned to a different subcommittee, we want to know about that so that we can make some changes, because we're gradually trying to focus the county's role and pull back a little bit so that we're very specific and we're staying within our guidelines, because we want to continue to emphasize that this is your recovery effort. The county, we're not in here trying to dictate what should happen with your property. We want to be an assistance to you. We don't want to be a hindrance. So I'm going to ask our subcommittees to take a critical look at their areas of responsibility and ask those particular questions. So we're going to have some people that will be contacting the subcommittee chairs and asking those questions to really take a look at your structure, make sure that you still have at least one person that's going to be designated to be the liaison to this particular committee, but take a critical look at your areas of responsibilities. And something that's beyond the scope of recovery effort, we really want to find out what that is so that we can take that off your plate. And we also want to find out if there's something that just doesn't logically fit based on what you've experienced throughout this recovery process. Let us know so we can reassign that to a different area. That's going to be very critical to us. The other thing I want to mention is we are going to ask the subcommittees to take a look at lessons learned. Last week we had our first lessons learned, and we're going to have that probably every 3 or 4 months just to kind of take the temperature of how we're doing from the recovery process. So I'm going to ask the subcommittees to ask themselves internally, based on your experience with your group and your interactions with the community, help us compile a list of lessons learned based on your focus area. That's going to be very critical to us. Because our goal is, a year from the fire, we want to put together a lessons learned document that the community can rely on. Because unfortunately, we are becoming national experts in this particular area. But I think that there are critical stories, things that have gone right, things that have gone wrong, future policy decisions. We want to capture these documents. And a lot of that foundation is going to be from our subcommittee. So you'll be receiving an email requesting some assistance with that. Other than that, we are now going to turn it over to our various subcommittees for a brief report. Our first one is our Land Development Code. Do we have anybody here representing that committee here tonight? If not, because if we have freed up 10 minutes, if not, down here. Which might be helpful for Commissioner Lakin's presentation that she has for us. But I can tell you just from a highlight standpoint, we're really pleased with regard to some of the permit activity. I take a look at this every week, and when you're looking at to date, demolition and debris removal permits, we have about 351 permits that have already been issued. For new residential construction, it's about 9. So we are looking at this type of information. We want to make sure that we're sensitive to the fact that people are going to go through this process at various stages. So we're tracking that. So if you're having problems with regional or development services, they actually have an opportunity where you can schedule appointments with them. They've reached out to be able to provide that service. So if there's any areas where we can improve in that area, feel free to talk to me afterwards, send me an email. But from a land development code standpoint, I just want to at least give you that brief update. So with that, with 10 minutes freed up, I like this. Now we're back on schedule. We'll move over to our cleanup and recovery process with Commissioner Pinery.
That implies I was going to go long. I'm a little concerned about that. Well, thank you very much. I'm Amy Lakin, the chair of the debris removal recovery cleanup subcommittee. Kind of, I guess, jack of all trades. We've handled a lot of different issues. And something that I wanted to do is reach out to a number of different county departments to gather some information and really take a look at what we've been doing so that we know what we need to do, and so our subcommittee can kind of figure out some more next steps where it's not quite lessons learned, we'll take that back as homework, but it is a look at where we've been. So we have kind of a small screen up here, but just keep your eye on that. I'll kind of walk you through as we go, and so we'll just jump into some different information that I've got for you in terms of the recovery efforts that have gone on so far. We'll start with parks. Many of you know this already. The Section 16 trail system has reopened. We're very excited about that. We have not reopened that playground because of flooding issues. We're certainly working on that, and we'll do our best to get that open as soon as we can. Northern trails, we hope to reopen in September, but we've got to get some hazard trees out of there and do some of those trail repairs. As it relates to those kinds of things, you'll know that we had 60 people come out to help do some of those repairs. Those are the kinds of groups of volunteers that we're going to be using in the future. When we identify projects where we can bring a whole group out and really work at that, we'll be able to get things done quickly. It's just a matter, obviously, we've had some pretty extraordinary weather and challenges, and we're identifying all of those challenges, and we'll identify more of those projects and then get more of these great groups of volunteers out to assist. That's going to help us to be able to move things forward faster. Continuing on in parks, we have received $46,000 from the Pikes Peak Community Foundation for flood mitigation at the regional park, and so obviously we're excited about that. That work will begin in September. NRCS is the Natural Resources Conservation Service, and they are working with us to assess that new flooding hazard. Really, what does the land look like now, and what do we need to address? That list is going to be long. There's a lot, as you know, that has changed, and we have to begin to address it as a changed landscape, as a new drainage system, with new issues that we need to take a look at. All that as it relates not only to our parks, but our infrastructure. And we'll take a look at that as well. We're looking at Pinery's open space. That also includes buildings and structures that are there. We've received $60,500 in local and state funds for mitigation at Fox Run Regional Park as well. We are, again, working with partners. We had CSU Extension here speaking to our subcommittee, talking about some of those best management practices. And I would encourage you, if you have questions, not only Judy has flyers, I'm sure many of you have them, and this subcommittee has been working with Black Forest Together and others to look at some of those best management practices, but there are also resources available to you at CSU Extension, and that's just there for you to take a look at it and see if that fits for you. We do have some money, some developer money that we are using for forest management and recovery efforts that we'll use into next year. We have a forestry crew with using funds provided by our regional building department. They've been working in various county park properties in the Black Forest area, and they'll start next week in some more cleanup efforts and ongoing. So that money is coming out of regional building. I'm off the slide, Dave. I'll get to that slide soon. We have been talking with Colorado State Forest Service, and again, I just want to emphasize this, and we talked about this in our subcommittee. We continue to have emphasis on if you are willing to wait and see what trees come back, that still continues to be the word of advice from those kinds of experts. I can tell you that some of our criteria is if more than 70% of the canopy is consumed, you might be looking at a tree that might not come back. This is not, I should caveat this by saying these are just some of the best practices that have come our way that we're working with the Forest Service on. If there's damage on the bark of the tree, consumed or dead kernel buds, and potential that the tree may fall, of course, within a corridor or a right-of-way or somewhere, that tree may come up early. So we are working with a gentleman who has a degree in forest management from Colorado State University to work with some of these things and take a look at the big picture with our parks and help us as we go forward. Okay, so there you go. We'll be at the Community Services Division now, Environmental Decision. You'll see some of the numbers that we've got up there in terms of the materials that we have collected. We have a collection site with the county that's always available, but we've brought some of those collection sites out into the Black Forest. And I think one of the notes that I made, the extraordinary amount of electronics that were collected, pretty significant. I would also note that at the bottom of this, we got one tire. So there's a car out there with 3 tires on it. I don't know what's going on with that, but we got one tire out of those collections. But our huge thanks to our environmental decision. Right. So this is certainly something that although the county has this kind of service available all the time, that we will look at in the future for the potential of more of those, one-day opportunities out here in the forest to be able to take some things and get rid of some of those hazardous materials. So we'll continue to watch that. Slash mulch program. I'm sure are all very familiar with that. We are looking for more solutions with what is truly a capacity problem out there. You'll note the numbers, the amount of slash brought in and the amount of mulch going out. Those aren't working very well. We've got a capacity issue. So we're working on a number of different ways to try to move some of that off. I would note that the dates on here will tell you that the site will continue to operate for drop-off until September 16th, and then for pickup through September 28th. We'll be having some discussions about the potential of extending that, being able to have more time. There's a lot more time before the snow really starts to fly, and you're still able to use that facility. And if we can possibly work with them to be able to help that happen for them, whether it's funding that we need to look for, resources that we need to look for them. We're going to have those conversations with Slash to try to make this available to you as long as possible. There's noxious weed survey is going on, and I'm sure you're all seeing all of the new growth popping up. Tremendous fertilizer on the ground right now, and so we're taking a look at where good stuff is coming up and not so good stuff. Next slide is Pinery Public Health. The next couple of slides speaks to the work that public health has done in the recovery, and there are still continuing ways that public health can serve you in this recovery, but just a little bit of a synopsis. Of course, there was a lot of work with the water. Ahead of time, we had water out there for everyone at the reentry stations and throughout the forest. 563 water samples were tested in the lab, and we continue to work with homeowners as rebuilding continues. I would note that I think that the outcome of most of those tests were benign, I think is fair to say. Okay, so statistically she says nothing is giving her heartache from all of that well testing. So far so good there. That will continue to be monitored by public health. Also, of course, we're looking at the damaged well heads, the wells that are there, so there's information on the next slide. Dave, if you can hit that next one. Just an extraordinary job by health to go out and survey all of these wells for damage. Of the 555 wells that were surveyed, 102 had severe damage, which is pretty significant. And that's an issue that, obviously we didn't deal with the Waldo fire, totally different dynamic that we deal with here, and we're working to make sure that we're covering all the issues that can result from that. So a lot of volunteers helped with capping those wells and making sure that we don't have contamination to the aquifers, which is of course why the water testing continues to make sure that we're on track there. Health department was also, I always call it the health department, it's actually El Paso County Public Health. I don't know if I'll ever get health department out of my head, but health department did a lot of work at the Disaster Assistance Center, assisting with folks with information that they needed, guidance, and that is something that as we go forward, if there's more that needs to be done as the rebuilding process continues for many months, we'll continue to look at that and see what kind of resources we need out here from El Paso County Public Health. Tetanus vaccinations, 767 for the Black Forest Fire. That's a large number, and that's a great support to have. And those happened in a wide variety of locations and within the area. And of course, you can see there as well that the public health went right on into Manitou Springs with their issues and did tetanus vaccinations there as well. Moving on as quickly as I can to go through everything, because I'm back with time. We have the next slide deals with really the Board of County Commissioners policy. This is just kind of a reminder of what this board has done in terms of that land development code policy going forward. I'm not going to go through all of these, but as you know, we did very early on meet to look at that land development code and see what we needed to do with that code to assist and streamline the rebuilding process. I think one of the best ways to describe it is when you get into a property that was a legal non-conforming use. Older property doesn't match up with the codes of today, so to speak. Now they're burned down and rebuilding has to commence. Well, what happens to that property? Do they rebuild under the existing code? And if so, in many of those cases, they would not be able to. The code simply would not allow for them to rebuild the way they were because it was an older lot, legal non-conforming, all those issues. So we went through and identified a number of things that we needed to do to make sure that those kinds of issues did not interfere with the rebuilding process. And essentially, the way we put it in place was to the greatest extent possible. Try to be in compliance with the code on those kinds of non-conforming lots to the greatest extent possible. Questions on those things have been answered already by the Regional Building Department, and they will continue to help answer your questions as it relates to rebuilding, setbacks, issues that you need to know about your septic, your well on a lot that you're not sure would comply with the current code. The mission, the intent behind this effort is obviously to make sure that you can become whole again to the greatest extent possible and as quickly as possible without a whole bunch of that kind of bureaucracy in the way. So we suspended a number of things within the code. See them up there. The next slide also shares a little bit of what we suspended. All of this is available to you if you want to see these and read through them more carefully. In addition to suspending some of those codes, all of which were suspended for a period of 1 year, and then we'll reassess. We'll take a look. We'll reassess at 6 months minimally, and then we'll go back in at a year and see if anything needs to be extended. But in addition to that, we consolidated fees, permit costs, and waived some of those as well. Again, our intent is to make this as simple and seamless as possible for the rebuilding of properties and homes in Black Forest. Next slide gives you, Commissioner Glenn already mentioned some of these. These are updated numbers, I think, as of yesterday on some of the applications that have come in to regional building and the county. And so you can just kind of take a look at those. I won't read through all of those, but we are excited to see numbers starting to roll in. We are excited to see people being able to get out and get back into their home. And when I talk about home, I'm not just talking about the dwelling, but I'm talking about the home of Black Forest, the property, all the land and the trees and everything that makes it part of your home. Because we recognize that that's a part of your home. It's not just your dwelling. This is a very unique place, and we want to make sure that folks can get back to living where they want to be and advanced in their recovery. Next slide starts to speak to some of the infrastructure issues that we have. I'm going to go as fast as I can here. We'll just take a look very quickly. These are some of the things that we did immediately to support the reentry and to support immediate needs within the infrastructure. Talking about things like guardrails and signs and culverts and things like that. So that happened very quickly. We do have, we've replaced every sign that was burned that we know of and things like that. And of course now, with the flooding, we all know that we have some serious infrastructure issues. We have done some of these assessments as quickly as possible to assist in the partnerships, the FEMA partnerships and other partnerships to get dollars in here for infrastructure. There's a significant difference in FEMA in terms of FEMA relief for public infrastructure and FEMA relief for individual relief. Two different categories, and in this way we are looking right here at all that public infrastructure support. So we've got the post-flooding events. On the next slide there are some, obviously I'm sure all of you are very, very aware. You can go to the next one, Dave, the flooding, there we go, there's on Chute. We know that there are new issues to deal with. We know that private property has been impacted in new ways because of flooding coming off the roads, coming off of blocked culverts and a number of issues. And so that's part of that assessment I spoke to that we're working on as fast as we can. We will be working with our budget to prioritize dollars into this kind of recovery for the infrastructure, knowing full well that we've got a new normal. And so if you have issues that you're seeing, and this really did come up in our meeting earlier before this one, if you have issues that you're seeing on your own property that you see are either adding to problems on the public roadway system in that public infrastructure, or in the reverse, where you're being impacted in new ways, you need to just let us know. We may not be aware of it yet. We may be aware of it, we're working on it, but we may not. So if you're seeing those kinds of things, it may help in the big picture with the county being able to come on and look at the whole area and be able to identify, okay, if we do a catchment basin over here on this property, or work within this easement, we're going to be able to really impact these other issues we're having, and that would be very helpful. So if you're seeing some new kinds of drainage issues, please do not hesitate to let us know. We have provided over 9,000 sandbags. That just requires a little bit of ibuprofen. I don't know if anybody's gone out there and done it. I have thoroughly enjoyed going out and filling up sandbags and having fun with that. Just bring your bottle of ibuprofen Continuing, not continued, but continuing engineering analysis of critical culvert locations. Obviously, that is part of all that recovery. Here's the Casey Lane repair. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. It was a very dramatic failure, and we went in there as quickly as possible to repair that. On the next slide, I'm excited to note that part of that repair was due to a donation of actually just a partnership, and I have to have our staff talk about how it all happened, but we happened to receive culverts from DIA, Denver International Airport, from a project that they were older and they weren't going to use them, perfectly great shape, and we actually had those given to us from DIA. And then we had an entity who helped transport, because this is not something you stick on the back of a truck somewhere. This is serious transport, and we received these culverts, and it was just a tremendous partnership and collaboration to get those out here and to do it very, very quickly. In dealing with all that up there, we got them in here very quickly, and this is a permanent repair that you see out there on Casey Lane. We do have more of those, and we're looking at where those other donated culverts will be going and where they're best used. Some of which might actually end up over with Waldo, but we're looking at the whole big picture. Next slide, we're doing work on Chute Road, of course, and I'm quite positive that all of you are very aware of the problem areas there. And we are, like I said, just working on the entire system and how we handle that. Last slide is hazard trees. Of course, that all plays into this. We're working with FEMA, we're working with the subcommittees, with all of you who are local here, with CSU Extension and a variety of folks, including the public utilities, to identify issues that we have in our rights-of-way and what we need to mitigate and how we go forward. So I think one of the important points there is that at the end there you'll see easements from private property owners will be required to gain legal access. We will never come onto private property without permission and agreements and working with private property owners. And in so doing, we want to identify those ways that we can really make the whole system work better and address these new drainage issues. So we'll take those kinds of things as they're identified and as we go along in the long-term recovery. So that is a summary of some of the county recovery efforts to date. I don't know how long I'm over time, but I'll hand the microphone.
You did great. This committee was the one that had to stand up first, and they're really doing a lot of the heavy lifting right out of the gate. So I'm extremely pleased with the progress here. So thank you very much. I don't know if Commissioner Clark has a representative here. Under her area of responsibility for community support, we all kind of oversee some of the community fundraising. The county doesn't have an active role. There are so many people and partners that are stepping up in this community. We're so proud of that fact. That if we're asked from a county perspective of where to send donations, we always say the Pikes Peak Community Foundation. That's the only thing that we can support as far as officially. But we are just encouraging people to do whatever you can to try to help out, because there are gaps when you start looking at whether or not individuals that did not have insurance and whether or not the government can come in and help. There are going to be some gaps, so we are trying to look at ways that we can rally community partners together to try to help out in those areas. So that's kind of going on in that area. And obviously, Commissioner Clark is having to deal with some of the issues that are happening over on the west side. So this might be a committee that we end up having to reallocate some of the resources, because we're essentially, for lack of a better way of stating it, we're fighting a two-front war when it comes to it. Anytime it rains, we have to take a look at what's going on and make sure that we're allocating our resources appropriately. So with that, we're going to go to our next subcommittee, the Citizens Preparedness one, and the chair of that is Commissioner Peggy Littleton.
I have so many very competent and capable folks who I've elected to come and be my co-chairs on all of my different committees, because I certainly feel like I live at the Pinery now. I'm here at least 4 days a week in the evening doing committees. So Pat Orban's going to start with the start bars first and give you kind of a breakout on what we've done with Mentor Connections.
Thanks to Peggy. She put together wonderful Mountain Shadow residents that lost their home. They wanted to do something for the people of Black Forest. So what they learned through trial and error, the Black Forest, to make the journey easier for the people of Black Forest, basically. And we had our second meeting here last night, and it was a great success. There had to be 150 people here. And even when I left at 8:45, it was 6:30 to 8:30, there were still people around the tables just wanting to talk to each other. This is a very special opportunity for people of Black Forest. So if you know anybody that has lost their home, the next meeting is September 24th, and it's very advantageous. Instead of trying to figure out what to do, these people are here to help. And we talk about things there at the meetings like inventory loss. Last night there were 3 tables full of people wanting to know about that. They're just at that point from their loss of their home. Also insurance. It was really interesting. There were quite a few people here last night that they had maybe partial loss or smoke damage, and dealing with the insurance companies through that. It was a real learning curve for me. They're going through a lot, so instead of frustration, you can use these to your advantage to learn about those topics. Some of the other topics, there is grief loss counseling. There's even a darling teenager that her family lost their home in Mountain Shadows, and she has come to help with the teens. So if you know any teens, because they get a little, put on the side, and they're struggling with all the teen issues along the loss and trying to be there for their family. So again, this is a great opportunity. I just can't say enough about the people in Mountain Shadows for doing this.
Did you announce the next meeting? Tuesday, September 24th is going to be here at the Pinery, Tuesday, September 24th. Our next subcommittee chair is Ekta Mobilier, and she's going to be talking about the Small Business Development Center and what small business has done up there.
Thank you. Fortunately, we've had a great program in place since the World Canadian Fire. Unfortunately, we've had to extend that service out here, but it is fortunate again to have been able to respond quickly to assist the businesses that have been directly or indirectly affected by the Black Forest Fire. I wanted to give you an update on what the resources have been since we've extended the services to this area. That includes consulting and assistance for businesses in the areas of business insurance, disaster assessment, financial guidance, legal assistance, accounting, SBA loan assistance. As you know, the SBA has been here at Fire Station 1. We've been co-located with them since they've been here. I urge you to go see them for physical or economic disaster loans that are available right now. They're here through tomorrow. When they leave, we're taking it over. So if you're a business and need help, come see us. We also have access to information on local funds and some grants, and I'll tell you about that. We're also in support of the Pike Street Workforce Center and the dislocated worker unemployment that is currently available. Unfortunately, the DUA assistance, the disaster unemployment assistance, ended at 5 o'clock, but there is dislocated unemployment assistance for everybody, not just businesses, still available, so I can talk to you about that if you need help. Additional disaster preparedness, we'll talk about that, and then other resources with state agencies that we've collected. To not take up too much time, I want to let you know that we are moving into the preparedness efforts. We consider our resources to be from the relief recovery to the preparedness phases, and now we are into recovery and preparedness. We have an event coming up as part of the Workforce Development Month and Emergency Preparedness Month in September. That event is September 17th. It is free. It's all about business preparedness and what you need to know as a business. We're going to cover a number of elements that I mentioned earlier that our consultants cover. It's at the Citizen Service Center where the Disaster Assistance Center was located, so I think most of you know where that is. Again, that's free. We'll be serving breakfast. It's capped at 100 people, so please register early if you'd like to attend that event. Additionally, there's another event that we'll be having on November 14th at the Pinery. I don't think I was supposed to announce that, but I am. November 14th is called the Business Protection Summit and Resource Day. What that is that we're going to talk about preparedness for any some stats for you that we've collected. We've been assessing businesses since the day the fire happened. We were at the DAC, we were at R&R Cafe, we are now at Fire Station 1, at our offices and in Manitou, dealing with the subsequent flooding. We've taken 108 intakes so far out of the 2,000 businesses that we know are registered here in the Black Forest area and surrounding areas. Total estimated economic loss is $16 million, and that is only for the businesses that we've talked to. Estimated physical loss is over $51 million. Jobs lost, 71 so far. We've sent out information to 108 people, called about 300 businesses, had over 200 consulting sessions since the fire occurred. We are assisting with SBA loan applications. We know of 3 that have been submitted. Again, we are going to be assisting with those until the economic disaster loan deadline is over next May. So you have until next May. But I warn you, please do not wait until April to do it, because for any of you that know this process, it is not easy. But we know how to put in applications, we know what the paperwork you need are, we do the packaging for you, so please see us now rather than later, because that will come up really, really fast. So total estimated economic and physical loss, $67 million. Fortunately, we received a grant of $80,000 this year, and another $30,000, $40,000 next year to continue assisting with this through the end of the year, and we'll figure out a way to continue the process after that. So preparedness-wise, we are having, in response to the request for your committees to make sure we're heading in that direction, there are a few events coming up. And then at the event on November 14th, we will have lessons learned presented as well to all 5 families. If you'd like to take a copy of who we are, what we do, information on how to get a hold of us, the packets and my cards are over there under the screen. So please grab that, and we'll stay afterwards to answer any questions. And if you'd like to get on our email list that really provides you with all of the updates on what is out there to assist you, I'll add you to that list. Just come see me.
Thank you, Ethan. My co-chair for insurance is a Waldo Canyon survivor who she and her husband Steve lost their home, and so she's also been involved in the Veteran Connections, but really her expertise is insurance. And so Carla Price is going to tell us where we stand with our insurance.
Good evening. I need to say first and foremost, as a member of this county, it has been seamless to have every one of these men and women come and work with you all, and I think the lessons learned from Waldo really set they have to be really good that we're getting some great information. I can begin to tell you that with all of the Veteran Connections that have gone on, there have been a couple really good different journeys that you've been able to take. One has been United Policyholders. They have been here twice. They will be here again doing an inventory loss claims question and answer on the 10th of September. For everything that the county has done, I believe they were here just a couple of weeks ago on the 10th, and then certainly last time with the mentoring program. To know that you all can plug in innumerable ways is, yes, you're probably feeling like you have nothing else to do in jest, right? But I think to know that there are so many different avenues that have been put together are something that I would really, really encourage you. Most importantly, the August 10th meeting that took place with Dora and with many of your insurance companies, the insurance representatives, that is the first line of defense. And I think wherever your insurance company takes you, it does not have to be arduous. It does not have to be difficult. And I think to know that you have resources, therein is the joy that you can take as you move through what can be a really tireless trek oftentimes. I think I also have to say that with regards to insurance, I'm going to go to Commissioner Latham said, with regards to the Black Forest breakfast, some of the Waldo women were able to serve in that. And that is really what she talked about. That is your home. That was a group hug. So we thank you for Waldo sharing that with you. And I think everything has been, I don't know why it happened. We may never know why it happened. But frankly, we in this community are definitely here. With that said, fires end, floods continue. I would encourage you, if you do not have flood insurance, to please look. As I understand it, the maps are coming out and will be finalized the 1st of October. If you have flood insurance, please, please, please make sure you keep up with it, your private policy holder for your homeowner may write it, I would encourage you to do that. I'm sorry it's one more thing to do under the list, but it will very much protect you, and I think that that's exactly what these men and women are here doing.
Well, you can see that I have 3 fantastic co-chairs for some of our committees, and we're going to be bringing some more co-chairs on as we expand into the other responsibilities I have, which is animals and our stories of the forest that are coming soon. I also had the opportunity to share the lessons learned along with Commissioner Glenn, and we did have a meeting on the 22nd, Thursday, the 22nd, and the nice thing is that tonight we're actually having a meeting where there's no hail and no rain and no flooding. That's kind of a first, because every time we have a meeting, I can guarantee it's going to rain or flood or hail. And so this is exciting tonight that we have good weather. So for the lessons learned, I'll just wrap up in my area with this. We had many different people come and talk about questions that they want answers to. And while we did not provide any answers for these, we are just collecting information, listening to you, and finding out what we might be able to do in the future to change practices. Not that we'd like to think that we're ever going to have the opportunity to do this again, but I think it's unfortunately maybe the new, at least for this community for some time, for flooding, and since we know that there have been some arsonists that have been around. We always have to be very vigilant in everything that we do. Some of the questions that we're going to try to find answers to, we talked about property taxes coming out. What about the new tax assessment? What does that look like? How are you going to have taxes reported in the future? We're going to have, as I mentioned, connections. Next time we're going to have a professional who's going to talk simply about what do you need to know as you move forward for your taxes this next year? What's going to impact you? Because I think the Waldo families certainly found that and have some information as well. We are talking about wildland fire defensibility, communication, how people can get in a loop. Again, you can go to the elpasoco.com website. From that elpasoco.com website, on the top left-hand corner, there's a tab that says Black Forest Fire Assistance. You can click on that tab, go down on the right side, and it says, ask a question. Well, you don't even have to ask a question. You can just go in and open that link up and sign up and simply say, here's my information. I want to be on your email list to be notified about meetings, about questions that were answered, and important information that I might need to know. So I encourage you, if you've not done it yet, to please go do that so that you're notified. We talked about fire codes, about firefighting operations, law enforcement operations, what went on, fundraisers and donations, where's the money going, how do you access some of that. We talked about developing a top 10 recovery tasks list. What is it that would be the top 10 things if we were to have a fire again in an urban wildland interface that we should say? Should we just give you the list initially? Because I know it's really overwhelming to go into the disaster assistance center and have so much information. People were excited, but it was a little intimidating in the beginning because it was too much, too soon for some people. What are the top 10 things? Cat my well, get this stuff, get that done. So we're looking, if you have those, please email Commissioner Glenn or myself, and we'll continue to put that list together. With that, I'm going to stop. I wanted to take just one brief moment and thank not only the Pinery, but all of the El Paso County staff. You guys have been fantastic attending meetings with us at night and day and afternoon. And we did get internet access. So here Rose is showing you where you can go to the Black Forest Fire question form. And if he backs up a little bit, you can see the tab at the top where it says Black Forest Fire Assistance and where you can go. So really encourage you to do that. I'll be here after the meeting, and if his internet is working, that means mine is, and you can use my iPad or any of those to sign up tonight. Thanks so much.
Great, thank you very much. Our next subcommittee is our Legislative Support Committee, and that's headed up by State Senator Kent Lambert. I'm going to have him give a presentation and talk about his members too.
Thank you, Commissioner. Our committee has had the opportunity to meet once. We intentionally delayed our first meeting to find out what the process was for FEMA. The governor did prepare a combined request for both El Paso County and the Black Forest Fire and the Oil Gorge Fire. That had been processed. We got that information. I understood where we were to start on other activities. Yeah, thank you. So proceeding from there, we have a special opportunity opportunity because we have representatives from, I think, 4 or 5 state legislators. Representative Dan Merker is here tonight, and Sam Schaefer is back here representing Representative Amy Stevens, who was up in Denver doing as another committee meeting this afternoon up in Denver. But this is a rare opportunity because we also have representatives from Congressman Lamborn's office, Senator Bennett's office, and Senator Udall's office, and then we're also in communication with Congressman Tippman's office. So this is a good opportunity for information flow on all of the El Paso issues, including the flooding areas, because US 24 is a federal highway. So we want to make sure we follow along with that, and if our federal legislators are informed of those issues and requirements, we're hoping that we can move those forward in a more expeditious manner as well. We have prepared actually fairly extensive notes, and I won't go through all of those tonight, but I'll kind of hit a few highlights of the action items that we are currently taking and rolling over to future meetings. The Highway 24 and Manitou flooding process is also following another governor's executive order, which is going to encompass about $400,000 of immediate assistance to that area. But we've also, as part of that emergency declaration, that has triggered a request to the United States Department of Transportation for emergency federal highway funds to look, first of all, go through and look at US 24 and see if what needs to be fixed to make that a sustainable road for the next 10 years. Because that's a major east-west thoroughfare, not just through our county, but across the whole country. So that may require some more assistance there, widening the culverts and a variety of things. They're taking the first steps to do those surveys, including some activities with the Army Corps of Engineers. So I think we want to stay on top of that and provide information to the county as soon as we get it, either from the state or the federal government. We did have some citizen comments. Some of those have already passed to the Lessons Learned Committee. One gentleman had some problem with runoff, as you saw earlier on some of the slides, and felt the county didn't act on it, and we passed that to the Lessons Learned Committee. And another suggestion was that for defining rules for access to evacuated areas. There were some anecdotal stories that because this family had some issues of handicap access, that they had a couple of caretakers or proxies for them that were not allowed into the area to remove their valuables, and those valuables were lost. So again, that would be one of those things that go into lessons learned. Following the FEMA requests, which are emergency funds that can be released by a presidential executive order, there are additional funds that may be requested through Congress. And we will be following that process as well. The National Resource Conservation Service, Mr. Greg Langer will be, he said then, we should be getting information very soon about funds that might be available from their survey of this area. We're just waiting for that to happen. As soon as we get that, we'll be passing that on to the subcommittee of the county, the Long Range Planning Committee, and the counties. There's also quite a bit of legislation that is already being proposed on issues actually coming out of Walden Canyon in some cases, but might also affect the Black Forest Park. Senator Udall and Senator Inhofe have a bill that they've already proposed. Senator Bennett has a bill about helping across jurisdictions, sort of a nearest neighbor type of cooperative effort that he's pursuing. Congressman Scott Tiffin has a bill called the Healthy Forest Management Act. We want to collect all those together, plus any legislation that may be introduced at the state level to make sure that El Paso County is aware of those and has a chance to provide inputs or perhaps resolutions to express their opinion to either Congress or the state legislature about those initiatives. So we will be following again not just the Black Forest emergencies and those funding, but also Manitou Springs and US 24. One of the important things that I think we need to take a look at is how the command and control of the state is working. We're getting reports not just from Black Forest, but from Weld County, from a number of different areas about some jurisdictional problem that kind of slowed down the firefights. And we want to proceed cautiously on that to make sure everybody has an opportunity to vet that out and find out what's going on, as well as cooperation with the federal government. If we can plan a little bit better into the future, I think it's important to take time now to make sure that communications barriers and maybe interpersonal or interjurisdictional barriers are addressed before the next emergency. This is not going to help necessarily through the recovery process for the Black Forest, but there are a lot of lessons learned from the Black Forest that are of great interest to the federal and state government. Another one of those is being discussed by a committee, a task force that was formed by an executive order, I think back in January or February by Governor Hickenlooper, to look at this defensible space around, the effects of mitigation, defensible space around property. They are doing that study, I believe, under the auspices of Colorado State University in cooperation with local entities here, including those within the Black Forest. So we want, as soon as they have progress reports on that study, we want to report that as soon as possible back to El Paso County so everybody can take a look at those things. So I think that hits the highlights, and we will be providing formal minutes from our meeting, Mr. Chair, and action items and so forth as we go in the future, so we'll have documentation of all of that.
And thank you very much. And speaking of our minutes, when you look at our website, we also have an opportunity. If you've missed a meeting, we do take minutes, and you can download those if you have access to those. We videotape several of the meetings, and you can actually download the YouTube video too. So I wanted to make sure that you have an opportunity that you aren't missing anything, because I know that everybody's busy and they have priorities, but we want to make sure that we capture all this information so that you have that at your fingertips. With the spirit of, as we transition into phase 2, the other area that we had when we originally started this effort, we brought forth a group of the citizens that are really active in the community. They were labeled as the Black Forest Foundation at that particular time. They're going off and they're doing some things creating the Black Forest Together group. And what we are going to do from a county standpoint, not only this group, but all other nonprofits that are out there, we want to work with them so that we find out what specifically the services that you can provide. Because in the event that people come directly to the county and request assistance, we want to be able to refer them out. And as a county, we have to be in a position where we can't pick winners and losers. We want to make sure that we gather the information and be able to provide that information as far as points of contact for people to individually go out there and seek assistance. So they're doing a fantastic job trying to work with the community and pull together their structure. But from the county's perspective and for future updates, we want to make sure that at this forum, we want to provide them with an opportunity to identify, based on their interactions, if there are support requests that we can do within the spirit of our mission as a county. So with that, do we have a representative? I know that Judy's here, but do you have a representative that wants to? If you have any support requirements right now that we can identify or work on as a board, we can do that. But otherwise, the action from this meeting is going to be, we want to work with you on clearly defining the mission so that we know how to refer customers to you. But also at this point, I want to be able to address some specific areas where we can help you as a county.
Okay, well, I'm caught a little by surprise here. Eddie Bracken is really the one who can better answer those questions. Lee, are you still back there?
Yes.
Do you want to say anything about this, and then I'll say something about the forest recovery stuff?
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, I can say that we have the storefront is open and operating, and it's part of the Black Forest Fire Department's training room. How many of you know about that storefront for the Black Forest? Yeah, put your hands up. Okay. How many of you have actually visited it? Okay, that's good. Because I think the word is getting out on that. They have a website up that's just getting things added to it every day. They're going to be getting a copy machine. Ed Burcham has donated one. He also supported the Springs Together group. And they have a phone number. We don't have it handy right now. The website is www.blackforesttogether, and that's with 2 T's.org. Yes. 495-2445. That's Barbara Osmer who's been working with that. The hours are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's 9 to 5, and Tuesday and Thursday 9 to 9. So there's evening hours 2 nights a week for people to come who can't make it anywhere else. Aspen Point is there, Catholic Charities is there. Yeah, John Putnam is there from insurance. HBA has a representative there in the afternoons. Yeah, there's a group of architects that are interested in working with people as they're designing homes. And so Carl Schuler, who used to be a planner with the county, has been associated with that. Maybe you know him. And so there's a lot of resources there. The posters that you see over here are usually resident there. I swiped them today and yesterday for the meetings that we've been going to. The Forest Recovery Committee, which consists of Chris Bailey, Rick Nagle was here, but, he is here. He just morphed with a different person here. And Liz Schley, Lynn Langford, and I are the people that are currently on the committee, and we have a couple of other people who are interested. We put out a best management practices brochure, which we had available for the festival. And there's some of them over here. What this basically does is kind of point to 4 major areas: erosion, green tree mitigation, burn tree removal, and replanting, and ecosystem integrity. What to put in, what not to put in, which is maybe this is important, what we do put in. And this points to the website, the Black Forest Together website, that has a forest restoration page on it, which we are populating with direct links to a lot of literature from Natural Resources Conservation Service. So if you're interested in channel stabilization, slope sedimentation issues, scorched tree removals, whatever. There's a whole lot of literature that is in the process of being put up. I put together 4 pages on Monday, but I don't know if Liz Schley's gotten all of it up yet or not. She's on the committee too. So what we're trying to do is put together best management practices that are very heavily focused on the issues here in Black Forest. This fire is very different from Haman or Buffalo Creek or, the other ones that occurred during droughts, were on rocky substrates, and were followed by drought. We have soil here. It's a huge difference. And we've had a foot of rain, which is also a huge difference. And it's something that's going to help the scorched trees recover. And so we may be really surprised at how well they move out next year. So those kinds of things are what we're trying to address with the best management practices so that people will be up to speed on this. It's still important for you to get really good advice with your property. There are lists out there that NRCS has and others of certified arborists. Arborists are good at tree pruning. They usually work in town. Okay, they don't necessarily know anything about the forest. And so get more than one opinion before you make the decisions about what you do with your land.
But, and just to recap, this will be the portion of the agenda where we highlight any nonprofit organization that wants to come forward with a request for this committee to consider for county support. We recognize there are a lot of nonprofits out in the community that are trying to do a lot of great and wonderful things, and it's not our job to get in and manage that effort. They're doing fantastic things. We want to make sure that we try to disseminate information so that you have that. But as far as this particular committee meeting, what you will hear as far as a report is if they come forward based on their interactions with the community and they have specific requests for the county, that's what we will talk about that. We're going to take questions after we go. Moving on to the next agenda item where we talk about our citizen intake, just do want to give you some statistics. And these are just intakes that actually come in through our, whether our website or on the telephone. As of from August 1st through August 23rd, we've had 52 requests that have come in, 47 have been resolved, 2 are in progress. What we're trying to do is we want to make sure that we are tracking your information and your concerns. So if you're in a subcommittee or if you send in an email or you just call us on the phone, we have a process in place where we want to make sure that we log that in, get it out to the appropriate subcommittee so that they can research that. But we want to close the loop. So if we aren't doing a good job, please let me know, because our job is to make sure that we provide you with the information that you need. So we are tracking these particular items and we're concerned about customer service. Now we're going to have a brief financial update. So we do have somebody from our budget office. I don't know what side of the room you're sitting on.
Good evening. My name is Brian Olson. I'm with the Budget Administration for El Paso County. So we leave the fun stuff to last, the finance stuff, so it's most exciting. Numbers really haven't changed a lot from the last meeting as far as the costs. We're slightly over $10 million for both the federal and state incident costs. Right now, still over $1.5 million for what the cost for El Paso County. We're still putting those costs together. You can imagine there's a lot of time cards and receipts and things to go through. I think we're nearly complete with that though. I'll give you an update. We've formed a committee called it's the Fire Flood Mitigation and Recovery Finance Team. And that team is compiled of several departments within El Paso County's Public Services Department. That includes our fire recovery managers, our engineers, parks, budget, and finance. And what we've come to find is with all these, both with Waldo Canyon and with Black Forest, we're having a lot of flooding issues, and these cost money to fix these things. This committee is working with the grants that we've received. Both, one of those is we're talking about state grants. So kind of imagine how much money we have to fix these things. So once, what we'll do is meet on a weekly basis every Wednesday, and if we come to the point where we're either exhausted the grant funds or the reserves, then we will be coming to our commissioners to talk to them to get some direction on where we want to go. And that's really all I have at this point. If anyone has questions at all, I'll be good.
It's always a pleasure hearing from you. Thank you. Okay, before we open it up to public comment, this is the portion of the agenda where I talk to the subcommittee chairs. If there are any policy issues that came up during any of their meetings that need to be elevated to the full committee for resolution, this would be the opportunity to talk about that. That's good. Seeing none, what I want to do is we are going to have a public comment period. We do have an extra mic. If we can have one of our staff members run the mic around, we want to make sure, because we are taping this, I want to make sure that we do your question. Ma'am, you had the first question.
It's board request. My name's Monica Bailey, and I'm the public information person, volunteer for Black Forest Together. The request I had, and maybe all the nonprofit organizations are going to do this, is on the county website under the Black Forest tab, can you perhaps put links to those nonprofits, helping those to assist those in Black Forest who are also going to go through the recovery process? Think about it.
Well, I'm trying to, I think we had a link to your organization, but we will take that as an action check.
Okay, and secondly, maybe next to those nonprofits, for those who want to volunteer, maybe to assist us or volunteer with funds when we finally get our 501(c) status, is to put those who have those 501(c) status next to it so people know if they're volunteering or donating funds, whether they're tax exempt or not. Ours is in the process, I don't know how long it's going to take.
We'll take a look at what we can and can't do. We don't want to be in a position where we're simply advertising for that. We want to be able to, otherwise we can end up listing every single nonprofit that's out there. We need to work with our IT expert as far as finding out what specifically we can put down there. But I understand what you're requesting, but we will look at that.
Hi, my question is about the blocked culverts. We have people out there working on those. Somebody from the county came out 3 weeks ago, nothing's been done. The flooding is still happening, the erosion is awful.
People are absolutely working on those, no question about it. If you give me specifics, we'll make sure that I'll track with them tomorrow and find out what the status is on a particular one. Can you give me that, or do you want to catch me afterward, or do you want us to give it to you right now? Okay, got it.
Hi, I'm Dave Riley. I live on Casey and Shoot. Not really a question, but first of all, thanks for fixing our road on Casey Lane. That went really quickly, as you said. The other thing is just an emphasis. We had that culvert go out, and that had to be fixed, and that was expensive. I know they're working on a culvert under Shoot, and that will be probably some money also. But it seems like we're working our way upstream, and where all that comes, it sounds like there is some work, and there is already some attention in Black Forest Regional Park. That's great. And I just heard that it was opened, or at least the south and east side, and that's good. I run through there. I have not seen really much erosion control in that, so I just want to encourage to try as much as you can to attack the problem at the source, because that's just mostly on the south side of my land. That's where all that water is coming from. So you can keep on fixing culverts and unplugging drainage ditches, but until you do something about the erosion there, it'll keep on coming. Thank you.
I appreciate that. We talked about that earlier as well. Absolutely right. And whether it's here or other drainage issues that we have throughout the county, and boy, do we have some buttes out there. We can't just go and replace the culverts and then have it all washed out again and watch all that money wash down the road. So absolutely recognizing that. That's why we talk about there will very likely be people contacted by the county to talk about possible things that need to be done on private property that will help with the public infrastructure. And some of those things are going to have to be addressed first, absolutely. It's part of the assessment, and then looking at all of those things. It's just happening so fast, so trying to assess where all the new drainages are and how things need to be addressed. All that's being worked on. That's why folks are probably going to be contacted in some cases. Absolutely, absolutely.
You mentioned roads, road signs, and in our housing area, we have a forked road. We have a straight road that goes in two different directions. We assume that the fire department and firefighters probably took it down to reach the two perimeters. We did not lose anything, but we did have property on the edges that suffered some losses. How do we go about getting that stop sign back for the school buses and speed sign and so forth?
We want to make sure we get your contact information, we can address that.
Hi, my name is Sandra Nagy. And first of all, I would like to thank you. I know you guys are working very hard. Just thank you, really. My biggest question is what's going on with building codes? I have misinformation, I want clarification, and an explanation of the process, and do we have a say on it?
Okay. I will take the yeah, right here. No pun intended. No pun intended. I assume you're talking about fire codes in general? Building codes?
The sprinklers, the 6,000 bribe, but I think it's just a bribe paper. I just don't know what to follow. We're confused, the builder's confused, we don't know what to do.
Okay, I'm going to try to be brief and I'll hand the microphone to Commissioner. There's a process for for the code to be adopted. Fire districts go through their adoption process, and then they bring those new adopted codes to the Board of County Commissioners for approval. And so that process is underway. We've been working on this whole thing for quite some time as it relates to some of the things you just mentioned. In fact, we were going to meet to look at the 09 IFC, which is International Fire Code, back in June of last year. And that's the week that Waldo broke out. And so, of course, we canceled that meeting. And a number of things have happened where that hasn't come back to us. So that is coming back to us. We will look at those. I'm going to give you my perspective. I'm not going to speak on behalf of the board because we have not actually voted on this yet, although we've had many, many meetings about this and discussions. But I am not interested in over-regulating. I am not interested in adding cost that is unnecessary to the rebuilding of homes and adding burdens that are not necessary. I want to look at the facts. I want to look at what, for example, when you mentioned sprinklers, what they would have done, what they would do in the future, and be clear on those things. I want to do the same with fire flow and cisterns and be clear on those things. I want to be very clear on monies that are being requested or perhaps imposed, and we will look at it from those perspectives. But that's my perspective. We're going to be very, very careful with this, and you'll see that come forward. I believe we are working on putting some work sessions together to discuss some of this prior to the actual board action for adoption. And when that comes to us, the board can amend and make sure that we approve those things that we believe are in the best interests of rebuilding. Absolutely. We don't have it scheduled yet, but it will be announced. It's a major issue, obviously. And so when we get a work session put together, which is no action is ever taken in a work session, it's a discussion process. And then when it's actually on our agenda, that will be a public meeting. You'll be notified. I'm sure there'll be media on that. And absolutely, you have a say. Come in and say.
And that was well said. I really can't add too much to that. In fact, that we are committed to a public process so that both sides can have their, for lack of a better way, their day in court to make sure everybody understands both sides of the issue. But from my perspective, my goal is to get people back in their homes, in an affordable way. That's the main thing. When you think about recovery doesn't exist until you're back in your home. And I am not in favor of roadblocks that will make that more difficult. So we are committed to a very open process, but yes, we will be making a decision. There's a question, I think.
Hello. My question is about law enforcement. During a fire and immediately after the fire, you couldn't cross the road without being almost run over by somebody. enforcement is now, is it pre-fire or is it a little bit heightened? I see a sheriff's department car almost every day. What I'm wondering, my concern is, now that we're in rebuilding stages, we have all sorts of tradespeople out here, construction people, everybody in the world, looking loose, everything out here. So the population of Black Forest increases from town to here every day by hundreds. And I'm sure every last one of those persons is very honest. But I wonder if there's enough law enforcement and it will stay at a little bit higher level, at least for a while, until some of this dies down.
Well, sir, I appreciate your question, and I don't believe we have a representative from the sheriff's office here, but we will take that information back and see if we can provide an answer to you. If you want to leave us your contact information, we can get that to you. Any other questions? This is your opportunity.
Yes, Joe Barrett. I have a question concerning the meetings for code, that we're talking about code changes. I know there's a list, there was a list right after the fire of those who lost their homes, as well as those who had partial destruction to their homes. And I am requesting, I don't know if it can be done, that the meetings be mailed to those people who are not out here and have difficulty with finding out when meetings are. They're spread all over in temporary housing. Thank you.
We are going to have a very robust process as far as, on top of our normal notice requirements. We will make sure, because this issue has, there's a lot of attention on this, so we will use every media source that we can think of to possibly get the information.
My name is Don Perry. I work over on Meadowwood. I was a while. I just had 3 areas of concern. I don't know if you have any answers. Septic, wells, and the trees. The house is 50 years old. The well was probably that old. Does anybody know who and when will make any kind of decisions as to if we have to replace wells, if we have to replace septics? Also, the trees. We're hoping to wait a year to maybe see what comes back, and then there could be a glut. Trees probably having to be taken down. Will we have any assistance with that because limited funds from insurance for landscape? What do we do with all the firewood? Has anybody thought about that?
My name's Tom Gonzalez with El Paso County Public Health. I can answer your questions about septics and wells. First, septics. What we're doing with the on-site wastewater septic system is any of those that were impacted or potentially impacted by the fire, we've set up a 5-question evaluation on our website. Any one of our licensed providers, an installer, an engineer, or a system cleaner can do that evaluation. If your system is not damaged or it's partially damaged and can easily repair that, they'll submit that to us. If you're going to build exactly the same home in the same footprint with the same number of bedrooms, because we size septic by bedrooms, and that system's functioning, has no problems, you can continue to use that septic system. The only exception we've made is if it's a cesspool. That's a pipe to a pit where it provides no treatment. We've yet to see any of those yet come through the survey process. We are finding about 40% damage. Now that's anything from a minor baffle lid melted that they could replace pretty easily to, oh no, a truck ran over our soil treatment area, the drip drain fill, which requires a permit. So it's a variety of things we're seeing. I have designated one of our lead environmental health specialists that's highly skilled on-site wastewater, and he's up in this area daily. Chuck Cousineau, will get you his information. He's a problem solver. I've asked him to use common sense approach to it. But again, if you're building the same home, same bedrooms, we'll honor that system. As far as wells, we've had a lot of damage with wells. We have 550 wells surveyed, over 100, about 102 of them were severely damaged where they were an open straw to the aquifer. So we jumped on that with many community volunteers to cap those temporarily. If you've got one of those wells that's getting with their licensed well provider, I have a list of those on our website. There's about 12 of them that do that work that can help you. If your well wasn't damaged, we encourage you to test that well once you get it rebuilt. Make sure that water is safe to drink. My boss has waived that fee, and our laboratory for bacteria testing, so we can certainly do that for you. But if there is any damage to the well, we recommend you get that fixed by a licensed professional.
If we're not gonna build, but the well looks like it's okay, but we don't have power, is there a way, do we have to run a generator just to get power to see if we can pump the water out and take it? Because I've heard you have to have the well water tested the same day you draw it.
Yeah, the question was, well, we're not building right now, we don't have power, how do I get that water sample? Yeah, it would be a generator or some water source that you could get the water up. A licensed professional well driller can also do a Baylor's test, where they have a little mechanism of getting down and getting a sample of water. That can pose some false positives, but they can do that for you when you get you the list. I'd call them and see what those folks, you kind of call around, see what they think.
We want you not to feel rushed. If it's a situation where it's going to take a little time before you get that sample, don't think we've got some magic cutoff date where we're not going to test it for you.
It does have to be done the same day?
Yeah, generally, there's absolutely sampling criteria, so you're correct on that. I just really don't want individuals to worry about the fact that we've established some kind of a date. So however you can get those coordinated, but yeah, really best practice are sampling procedures, and getting the test into us the same day is absolutely best practice. But things are really just trickling in right now, so we don't feel overwhelmed doing this for you. Really, compared to in the very beginning, the number of tests that we're getting in each day are less than a handful, so it's not a burden at all.
Any other questions there?
Trees, all the firewood.
Trees.
With the trees, sir, we, a couple of different parts. The county, there won't be public resources expended on private property to mitigate any trees, unless they have been identified as hazard trees or somehow part of the floodplain or, some drainage management. And that would only be done in conjunction, in agreement with the property owner. So you won't see resources, public resources coming into anything like that. There are a list of resources that are coming together through the citizens groups, like Black Forest Together, Process for Losses, those that are out there. And so they are putting some of those together, and they have lists of not only nonprofits and volunteers who will help, but they also have lists of businesses who will, that you can contact and come and help. As I mentioned, there's Regional Building has on their website, you can put in any contractor's name, for whatever they do, and see if they're locally licensed. It's not a recommendation or an endorsement of such a contractor. It's just you can look there to see if they are indeed licensed locally, which may be something that is very important to you. So there are other ways to get to kind of some vendors, those that could provide services for you. There have been a lot of discussions about firewood and what we'll do with that in the future. But again, if it's coming off of your own property, it's kind of your decision of what you want to do. If you want to try to, if there's somebody that will buy that from you, or if there's a way that you can move that, you can definitely look into that. But that will be done through the public resources on the private property.
Judy Von Alfeld here. What we've been trying to do in the Forest Recovery Group with the best management practices is to encourage people to not turn everything into chips and firewood. Okay, there is value in these trees, but it also costs money to get them cut down, transported to a mill, and so on. So what's happening, the situation so far is that there are several groups that will pick up the larger trees, the saw log trees, to take them to mills to make things out of it. So that saves the landowner the cost and the hassle of dealing with the large wood. The landowner still has to deal with the slash. So let's say the Baptists cut the tree down, or you cut the tree down, or you have somebody else cut it down, and you don't want to pay them to take the slash to the slash side because you're going to do it. You still have the issue of what to do with the tree. You're right that firewood is very low value. I mean, that's sort of contracting to the lowest value that you can for your use of wood. And so we would like to see people try to utilize the larger trees by contacting the groups that will take them and turn them into wood products, wood utilization. There's mills going to Canyon City, there's a pallet mill in Pueblo, there's a mill up in Divide, and there's a mill in West Coast. So there are several different mills, and then there's one in Black Forest. It's a small one that does furniture, and it's trying to local wood. Yes, ma'am. I can talk to you about it afterwards, because we're not supposed to mention any businesses here at the county meetings. So anyway, those are some of the things, and there is the whole issue of, we happen to have a large amount of trees right now and for the next couple of years that will taper off. And so part of the issue is to try to phase the tree removal thing, coordinating a bazillion landowners who all have different problems and different objectives in a way that we can do this in a way that isn't going to damage the land. And it will give us the result of a good forest when we're done with it.
I'm sure Judy can put information too if she finds this out in the Black Forest Fire Recovery Center up at the Black Forest Fire Department. Also, if you remember that when you utilize anyone, whether it be for tree or stump removal or building a house, please go through the Better Business Bureau. Please, please, please go to their website. Make sure that whoever you're using has been cleared, accredited, so that you're not taken advantage of and a victim once again. So please make sure to do that.
Again, this is probably more just science-based information, but in order to give you a little bit of idea why I'm not having a lot of heartache with this point, is we've been able to track, obviously, where samples are coming from, some in close proximity to very damaged wells, some within X amount of miles away, and there's no real data difference there related to a severely damaged well and somebody's well next to that that's being tested. So I thought it might be kind of a good perspective so you can hear that we're able to kind of get more of a global perspective out of those 560 tests. But again, we're not done, but I just think that's good information maybe to help you feel a bit more comfortable. It makes me feel more comfortable, I'll tell you that.
Good evening, my name is Dave, and I apologize I missed it. I was a little late. My question is long-term counseling support for people who lost their homes. We know friends who have lost their homes. Obviously, it's only been 2 months. We don't know where it's going to be 2 months from now, a year from now. And so I don't know if Aspen Points, but I think they got a grant from FEMA to help support for a year. But what's the county's plans beyond that year to help with counseling? Because I'm sure with all the cane, you guys are still having issues, and it's been a year and a half, so I'm just kind of curious what the county's plans are on that.
Well, again, the county's plan is to basically work with our community partners. And we want to make sure that you have contacts with Aspen Point so that you can work with them. But as a county, we are a statutory county. We have certain roles and responsibilities that are defined by statute. And we have to stay within those parameters. But it doesn't mean that we don't try to rally community partners to try to step in and fill the gaps. So as far as direct role, we probably will not have a direct role, but it doesn't mean that the gap won't be filled by trying to put community resources available so that you have people like you or anybody else that has that particular concern has access to it.
I just wanted to ask if there would be forthcoming a detailed report of the progress and management of the fire by some official entity, because most information is through the media and a lot of it is not very comprehensive.
Let me clarify, are you asking as far as the tactics, as far as fighting the fire?
And the timeline of what happened and how the fire, when it moved from one place to the other and just kind of, I think that helps people with recovery to, have an official report or accounting.
We will certainly encourage the appropriate parties to try to put together a document.
Who would the appropriate parties be?
Well, you have multiple jurisdictions and agencies that responded. So part of our lessons learned is to try to capture those areas, and we're going to work with our partners so that we can provide information like that. So we will make sure that we pass that information on.
Yeah, I would think that would contribute to lessons learned to have that report.
I believe, and I won't speak out of turn, I'm kind of looking for somebody that I don't think is here to get, there is an after-action report, an incident report. So this was a type 1 incident. We had mutual aid from the very beginning, and then we transferred to the federal government for that type 1 incident team, and all of the things that happened with the firefight. There's always a report that's generated. I wish I could give you a date, and I have one in my head, but I don't want to give it to you unless I know it's for sure. So that is going to, it will be forthcoming. I just can't give you a date right now. So I'm not sure.
Thank you. You're talking about an official report. There will be an unofficial report written by the Black Forest Community Club's History Committee, of which I'm a member, and the chairperson of that has been writing up a major portion of that already. It's far from complete, and we probably need input from another number of citizens to make it complete. But there will be an unofficial history of the fire done by the Black Forest Community Club.
I'd also like to add to that, one experience from the Waldo Canyon and Mountain Shadows area was that the library district was collecting a tremendous number of photos. I don't know if you've got a local library here that's done that, but they would go into the canyons and so forth and try to get as many pictures within context as possible, and then collect those into the library district. So if you're interested in doing that, you might Rick, go talk to, I think it's the library on the Allegheny and Vindicator, the branch library closest to Mountain Shadows. I think it's near Allegheny, and you might see, it was all volunteer types of things, but you might see how they were setting that up and how they were compiling and storing all that data.
Thank you.
I'm speaking for the Black Forest Fire Department. We are in the process of developing an after-action report, in the perspective of our fire district, similar to the one that was prepared by the Sheriff's Department for Waldo Canyon. And we also have over 3,000 pictures of the fire that was taken, and we have that in our repository.
Any other questions?
This is just a public service announcement. The Black Forest Fire Department is providing some public service education presentations in September and October. The next one is going to be on the 19th of September at 7 p.m. at La Forêt in Inglis Hall. And the presentation is entitled Improving Home Survivability in the Wildland-Urban Interface. It's a presentation for homeowners and people that are rebuilding. It has some best practices on making a survivable structure and that first 100 or so feet out from the home as far as effective mitigation.
Did you get some 2 days?
Here it is. 19 September and 17 October.
Thank you. I think we got a question up here.
Hi, just back to the coding question and with regards to the time frame of how long do those proposals take, and if a homeowner is ready to start building and gets that approved, excuse me, that grandfathered in, then those don't have to be, brought up to code at a later date, with regards to just immediate getting a home built.
Well, I can tell you, we are trying to push this as fast as we can. We had to wait for the fire districts to approve whether there are amendments, modifications, whatever. The districts have to take action so that now the board can actually set this for a work session and for a public hearing. So we're going to try to accelerate the timelines to be able to provide you with some guidance. But, until the board actually makes a decision on these particular things, you're bound by the previous decisions. Any other questions? Going once, in the back. All right, almost.
Commissioners, thank you very much for your service. You guys have done great work. I'm Rob Wills, and I'm a long-term Black Forest resident, I guess. And one of my biggest concerns has been standing dead trees and the impact that it's going to create for Black Forest. Sadly, everybody who has dead trees in their property is underinsured by dramatic kinds of portions right now. And my question to you guys is if it's possible to declare the standing dead trees as something that has to be dealt with. You guys can work on the terminology, but if that's possible, then the insurance policies all have a additional clause that homeowners can use to be able to get additional funds. And so if that's something that can be considered, that would be exceedingly helpful to people who are trying to be able to deal with the dead trees on their property.
I'm sure our committee is considering all of those options, and we're going to provide as much guidance as we can. We're trying to take a very cautious approach, whether it's dead trees or whether it's properties that we're concerned about people walking away from. We want people to take some caution and just take a deep breath and realize that this is a marathon and not a sprint. And we want to make sure that people understand that we have to be sensitive to not only to the natural environment, but also to the mental state of people going through this process. People are going through this process at various stages. Some have already started the rebuilding process. Some are just still struggling with the initial grieving stage. And I can tell you, and I say this in every meeting, as a county, we're going to approach this as a family. And we're going to make sure that we put a support system in place. We're not going to put unnecessary pressure on people to do certain things. We will constantly evaluate things from a health and safety standpoint. But while we're doing that, we're going to show compassion because over the past couple of years, this community has been knocked down. But we're going to continue to get up, and we're going to fight, and we're going to fight. And I'm very confident that I understand your concern with regard to trees and the ability for insurance companies to do certain things, but it falls in the same category. I'm very confident with the process that we have and the experts that we have in the field that are making those determinations, and we will make those decisions as soon as we can. That's the best answer that I can provide.
Right, I understand. The situation, and just to use a term that I've already been told you aren't going to do, but if you, perchance, declared the trees as a blight to Black Forest and said that's not going to be effective for 3 years, or it's not going to be effective until a occupancy certificate goes for a new house. The big challenge right now is that people are making decisions to move to Teller County with the limited insurance funds that they're receiving. And it's because they see the trees that are on their property as an insurmountable hurdle. And so I just would ask you to consider it.
And I appreciate that, but I don't accept that as fact. You got to be honest. I think the more public discussions that we have, that people understand that there's a process in place. We want to put people in their homes as soon as we can, but we are not going to put unnecessary burdens on them.
I think one other part of that I would have to see before I would even inkle as to making a decision like that would be whether any insurance company would actually accept a post-fire classification and then allow that to be covered. I don't know that would take place. I'm not an insurance expert, and so I can't tell for sure, but that would be a question I would have to ask. I'm not sure that a post-fire classification change would actually qualify anyone for that kind of coverage. And as you mentioned, those that you're alluding to are those, in some cases, who are uninsured, so it may not even apply. We'll take this a step at a time and see what we can figure out to make sure that we don't have those kinds of liabilities.
Ma'am, I want to make sure that we have a microphone that's coming up.
On these insurance companies, I have talked to several people who have lost everything and who have lost partial things. Yet, it varies from insurance company to insurance company what you are reimbursed for your trees. And I would suggest that perhaps the Mountain Shadows and the United people have some better information, and if you're really concerned about not getting $16,000 for your standard tree, talk to them and see what you can do with the insurance companies.
And I think that's one of the questions I've been asked multiple times as well, is why don't insurance companies count trees when they're part of your property value? Why is it only counted as landscaping, and you only get a certain amount for landscaping as opposed to part of the property value, and you can include those as part of your claim?
It depends upon your company. Some companies consider it landscaping, some consider it a forest.
And Carl Leonard Price, who was a Walden Canyon survivor, has actually been introducing legislation up in Denver regarding this so that it will be more fair and equitable. Is it going to help us in this fire? Unfortunately, probably not. But it's certainly something that they've never dealt with before and try to take the inexpensive way out in most cases. But I would continue to ask them to push for that. If the value of your property in Black Forest is related to living in the trees and living in the woods, see what you can do to push.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I can weigh in a little bit on this. Most insurance policies allow the debris removal of 10% of whatever your policy award is. And that can be used just for your foundation and your ash or whatever. It can also be put toward trees, as far as the insurance company is concerned. And most companies also allow a certain percentage for landscaping, or there's a cap per tree or a cap total of what they'll allow you to use. I went in and talked to the SBA people because I had a bright idea that, I know I'm underinsured, and I can probably afford to take care of that area around my house. So I've got 15 acres, okay? Most of it's garden. So maybe I could get a $100,000 loan, and I could put $50,000 of it toward things I needed, including tree removal, okay? So I posed a question to them, was I allowed to use this? Were trees considered debris, or are they considered landscaping? Would the SBA allow me to do this or not? And I got a very fuzzy reply on that. Well, you have to negotiate with whoever your adjuster guy is from the SBA for your loan. I said, well, surely you have this figured out. I've been doing disasters for years, but I didn't get anywhere with that. So I think that's really sad that that's not something that people could get a 1.7% loan for as a homeowner to replace damaged property or fix up what needs fixed. But evidently that doesn't count for that. They only count damaged real estate as equal to your house, in their definition. So.
Any last questions? Okay, well, I want to thank everybody for coming. Our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, September 25th at a location to be determined. It's probably here, but we will let you know that. I appreciate everybody's patience, and just remember that we are here to support you. Please feel free to hang around and talk to any of us after the meeting.